Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next episode of Truth Shots with Kapil. Well, India is obsessed with growth numbers, budget speeches, economic dreams. But very few people actually look at or know what goes on behind the screen. In the smoke filled room where policies are written, where politics arm twist economics, and where one signature can change the fate of millions. Today, our guest is Sri Subhash Chandra Garg, former finance secretary, India's executive director at the World Bank, and a career IAS.
Thank you.
He has been at the heart of India's bureaucratic battlefield, managing crisis, taking on corruption, and battling global institutions that wanted India to bend. He is the author of The $10 Trillion Dream, We Also Make Policy, and his latest book, No Minister, which is a brutally honest account of how money, power, and politics collide in India. This conversation is not going to be about numbers. It is going to be about what happens when bureaucracy, politics, and money meet. Welcome to this episode, and thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thank you, Kapil. I'm so happy to be here.
Sir, would you want to start off by saying something to our audience before I start?
No, it's all. I'm very happy to be here, and you have rightly recognized in a way that after 36 years of career in the IAS, I switched career, so to say, switched side. I'm now in very happy space of
Mhm.
reading, writing, speaking. That's what I do.
Mhm.
So you mentioned about the books. There is one more addition to what you said. I wrote a book called The $10 Trillion Dream Dented,
Okay.
which analyzes, comments on the 5 years Modi government between 2019 and 24.
Mhm.
In addition, Kapil, I must tell you that I also write an annual book on India's budgets.
Okay.
That is the exclusive commentary on India's budget
Mhm.
every year within a month when the budget is presented by finance minister.
Oh,
So that
fantastic.
comes out. So I'm in a very happy space,
Mhm.
enjoying life and living it like a dream. Thank you very much for inviting.
So, sir, you spent 36 years as an IAS.
Correct.
Do you think, overall, if you look at everything, were you able to make contribution to the system, or do you think the system also consumed you in a lot of ways?
I think this is a very important question. What's the system and what's you?
Sure.
So we are constitution makers, our senior leaders after independence decided to adopt a certain kind of governance system in the country. IAS was part of that.
Right.
It was conceived as a central all India services common to the states and the center, because as you know, prior to independence, while there was a large British India, half of India was in princely states.
Sure.
So those were integrated. The uppermost concern about in the minds of the leaders was that there should be one India,
Mhm.
an integrated single India. And that required enormous amount of things to be done in terms of integration of languages, people's habits, preferences, different backgrounds, governance, and others. So when this system was created, which is by and large described in our constitution, IAS became a part of that system. And so when I joined much later in
Mhm.
83. By the time more than 45 years of the system was in place, it had been evolving.
Mhm.
It had also changed. So system at any point of time is also a living thing.
Sure.
It's not a straight jacket, completely unchangeable. We do it every time. So when you join the service, or when I joined the service, so to say, the system as it existed in, so I became a part of it,
Mhm.
right? And then in the initial many years in the service, you are actually working in accordance with the system,
Sure.
right? Because whether you are implementing development programs or you're administering districts, subdivisions, you are acting in accordance with the laws, the programs, the policies which are in place. So by and large, that is what the system is.
Right.
But as you go along, you also realize that any system is not perfect for the moment, because
Sure.
it has evolved. It has certain biases of maintaining status quo, etc. So you start exercising your judgment about how should the system operate,
Sure.
what actually the system is. So in short, if I may respond to your question, the system I served, to the best of my ability and honesty, system, you become part of the system. So it doesn't consume you as such, but you become part of it.
Sure.
But as you go along, if you can contribute to making the system more and more resilient, more and more contemporary, serving the people's interest, then actually you are making some contribution.
Right.
So I would say I could make some contribution to make the system better as well.
Sure. Sure. What do you think is the biggest lie that people believe about bureaucrats in India?
Lie?
Biggest lie.
Oh, not lie, biggest lie.
The biggest lie, according to you.
See, this is interesting in the sense that what is the lie people believe? Do we as bureaucrats know it or not?
Right.
Or how do you know it? So maybe you see the newspapers, or you see the people talking to you, or some other people somehow indirectly reaching to you their assessments. So what I see, that there are certain kind of impressions. You may call it lie or whatever. There are kind of certain kind of impressions which I think a lot of people believe about the bureaucracy today. Let me say one of them is that there is corruption all over. For example, everybody is corrupt. That kind of negative sentiment is what you see. Likewise, you also note now that the bureaucrats don't matter. The minister matters. The politicians matter. That kind of impressions also you hear. You also hear that most bureaucrats are or have become self-serving. They're concerned with their own comforts, privileges, pay, packages, betterment, rather than the public interest. They become sort of so much self-serving.
Right.
There may be many more. I don't. You may tell me that what is the impression, so then I comment. But if I were to take these three major ones, which I thought might be the viewer for the bureaucrats, I see some truth in the idea about corruption, that many bureaucrats, not all, but some bureaucrats certainly have fallen prey to the corruption. So it may be a partial answer to what you say. It's also to some extent true that bureaucrats look for their comforts, their benefits, and many times what kind of postings they get. Those postings are creamy postings or not creamy postings. So there is some truth in that as well. But I think this impression that it's the politicians who matter and the bureaucrats don't. You can get anything done if you can set the politician. I think that's not true.
That's probably the biggest misinformation that people
That's
have.
what my
In fact, in almost all my experience, I mean, specifically over the last 13, 14 years, I've done a lot of work with governments, with bureaucrats, with even with a lot of politicians. That's one thing that I keep seeing. It's always the bureaucrat that is responsible for driving the policy. The politician will come with their own mindset, with their own requirements of what they would ideally like for the framework to get changed to suit their own politics.
I wouldn't go to the other extreme that
Mhm,
every time it's only the bureaucrat who calls the shot. It's not the
mhm.
case. Uh, it's the truth is somewhere
In the
in
middle,
between, in
right,
the middle.
right.
They have their roles. Both the politicians, the
Mhm,
ministers have their role.
mhm,
Likewise, the civil servants have a role to play.
mhm.
A constitution defines, the system of
Yep.
governance
Mhm,
defines each other's roles, and therefore the impression that either the politicians only call the shot or the bureaucrats only
mhm.
call the shot. I think both of them are extreme. The truth is somewhere in between.
Sure. How do you personally, how did you navigate this ongoing tug of war that would happen between, the bureaucrats, the policymakers, and the politics?
Kapil, I think we should remember one thing first. The politician, the ministers on one side, and the bureaucrats on the other side, they're part of a team.
Right.
They're not enemies
Mhm,
of each other,
mhm,
right? And only together they deliver what
mhm,
the people of India
mhm,
wants, what the system or the constitution and expectations are.
mhm,
They're not enemies. They are part of a team.
mhm,
Now, if you start from that position that they're part of a team, then, as you know, in any organization, in any setup, there are conflicts within the team
mhm.
always, right? Not everybody thinks in the same way,
Right.
right? Not everybody's interest is the same,
Mhm,
right? Many times they coalesce, converge,
mhm,
but there are some times when the interest may differ
mhm,
for whatever reasons. It may be personal,
mhm,
personal angle. Somebody is trying to make a deal for himself or herself, or it may be for political
mhm,
parties or institutions, or let us say for the association or the group of the officers put together themselves. So different reasons at different times there may be occasions when there is open or hidden conflict between two,
Sure.
right? And it is those situations which requires a very delicate handling,
Mhm,
and conflicts may arise.
mhm,
In my life also there have been many occasions which I have described in very frank details in
mhm,
that book, The No Minister.
mhm,
uh, the idea of no minister there is not to say a blunt no to the minister, but
mhm,
the idea is to sort of ensure that if ever you need to use the instrument of saying no, you do it to implement the laws, policies, and the programs
Sure.
of the country better.
Mhm,
If a minister is or a politician is asking you to do something other than what your law or the policy or the program requires, it is at that stage you can politely or firmly or
mhm,
whichever way uh, not do what the minister wants to
mhm.
do. Right.
Right.
That's one case where, and
Mhm,
in my book I have described numerous
mhm,
instances where I had to say, for example, let us say very early in my career, uh, Miss Balram Jakhad was the minister here,
mhm,
agriculture minister in the government of India, and in Rajasthan I was heading the oil federation, which used to run number of soybean and mustard and
mhm,
ground processing mills.
mhm,
That was the time when a lot of this infrastructure of processing plants was being set up. And we were setting up a couple of new plants in Rajasthan, mustard processing plant. So there was a message from Mr. Balram Jhakar's office, and he was, by the way, MP from Sikar, which is a district in Rajasthan, that he would want us to put one plant there.
Okay.
Right. That was the ask. Right. Now, when we did the exercise feasibility kind of thing, then we found that Seeker doesn't justify a new plant. We had one which was very close to one in Jhunjhunu, and that was processing the Seeker's mustard, and there was no need for doing that. If at all something was required to be done, was to increase the capacity of Jhunjhunu plant rather than investing. So we said, after doing that exercise, I wrote to them, to the government of Rajasthan, then to him, that no, Seeker doesn't require. So it was saying no. He didn't like it. I was excluded from a foreign delegation to pressurize, but I stuck to my point. I thought I was doing the public service, and a no to powerful central minister was justified. So similarly, there are many occasions when you say no, but more creative and constructive use of no comes when you are at a higher level, right? When you rise at higher levels and you are becoming part of the policy making. At that stage, the politician makes or the ministers make a lot of choices and decisions before the elections or during the elections, like what you, for example, recently the government decided to give a lot of concessions on GST, right? Now, when you do this kind of policy making, everyone participates. The civil servants also participate, and the politicians also participate. And here, on those occasions, in my judgment, if the civil servant is able to bring to the table the right kind of policy options, and is able to, in case the politician is interested to do something which is not that much in the interest of public, or is more in the interest of the politician, then by giving better advice, better options, you can effectively say no, but at the same time serving the public interest as well as the politician. So in my book, I describe in great detail. Vasundhara Raje was the Chief Minister of Rajasthan. I happened to be Finance Secretary at that time, and her own Principal Secretary in the Chief Minister's office, just before the elections, was suggesting certain kind of policy choices, that why don't we make electricity free, or why don't we distribute the food grains or atta flour free, so that people can be pleased and you can buy their votes, which to my mind appeared to be a very poor policy choice, because it will lock the state into so much of expenditure for many years with very questionable advantages for the public. So we came up with an alternative scheme. I have described that in great detail, Bamasha, which was systems improvement as well as targeting the women of Rajasthan in more than 50 lakh families, which in a way was also attractive proposition for Vasundhara Raje, being a woman herself. And that policy became a policy, and that program was launched, so much so that the opposition candidate felt threatened. So the idea is that there are tensions, there are tensions, there are conflicting choices, but in that, as a member of the team, if you come up with solutions which are better for the public interest and also maybe better for the politician, then you are actually effectively saying no to a bad idea and yes to a good idea.
In fact, in my first book, one of the things that I talked about is, I was questioning the concept of India. And one of the questions I asked is, so what exactly is India? Is
Correct.
it the land or is it the people? If it's the people, then what people? If it's a policy that is being worked for the benefit of people of India and correspondingly India, then many times the question would come up, which people? So in that sense, if you overall, for example, look at the budget of India, it looks very glamorous. But how do those numbers underneath, how do they come together?
See, this is very important question in the context of India.
Hmm.
What is India?
Hmm.
I'm not dwelt on this subject much, but let me give you. India lives in so many states, very different
Hmm.
regions. There's so many different backgrounds. I was earlier referring to the evolution
Hmm.
of India. So essentially, I don't think the policymakers need to worry too much about which Indian we are talking about. Is it Northeast Indians or Southern Indians or North Indians? Everybody is Indian,
Hmm.
right? Everybody is a person. But we should look from the point of view of what the budget is supposed to do,
Sure.
right? So the budget is primarily intended to do three things, in my judgment. I'm just oversimplifying it, but for the sake of it, there are basically three kind of things which the budget try to do. One is what we call providing public goods and services,
Hmm.
right? Which only the government can provide, not the private sector or not the people themselves. For example, let's say law and order.
Hmm.
It's only the government which can provide law and order.
Right.
Or the defense, security. It's only the government, nobody else.
Hmm.
Or something which is very current today, which is very important in the context, though we are not providing that much, a clean environment,
Sure.
a pollution-free existence,
Mhm.
environment, right? That only you and me cannot do it.
Hmm.
It is only if the government at a larger scale, at the scale of the people, will do it. Now, that is what we call public interest. And that is where the government spends money,
Right.
and provide for it. So you have large and also the decision making processes, parliament, otherwise, right? So this is one thing which we do, or the budget does. The second thing is who the budget belongs to. Who should be the government's concern?
Hmm.
If you think that in a family, the householder or the head of the family takes care of every constituent of the family. Somebody who is bright, somebody not so bright, somebody who is healthy, somebody not healthy.
Hmm.
And if there are people in the family who can take care of themselves, the head of the family worries less about them, right? And need to worry more about those who are not able to take care of.
Right.
Similarly, if you take the government
I
as
guess a constant debate about which state gets how much allocation of the
as
budget.
as
And
the head of the for the entire Indian
Mhm.
family, so to say, then you need to look at who do you serve.
Right.
The current prime minister uses a very nice term called gyan,
Mhm.
right? Uh, G stands for Garib, which is the poor.
Mhm.
Y stands for
For the
youth.
youth. Mhm.
A stands for Annadata or
The
farmers,
farmer.
and N stands for Nari
For women.
or
Yeah.
women. If you look at that very carefully, these four segments are the people who actually should be the concern of the budget.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So how many programs you prepare for them? Do you prepare right kind of programs for serving the interest? So that is the second thing.
Mhm.
Technically, we call it redistribution. That is, you are taking taxes from the rich
Mhm.
and you're trying to distribute it for the poor or the gyan, so to say.
Mhm.
And the third kind of thing which the budget intends to serve is to take the country forward, invest in the growth, invest in the development
Mhm.
kind of thing. So build roads, build infrastructure, do something to raise up the economic growth and things like that. So these are the three things which the budget does.
Okay.
And when you either as finance secretary or joint secretary finance or otherwise participating in the budget making, in consultation, in discussion with the Prime Minister, I think that is all you focus on.
Sure.
And then come up with hundreds of programs, which while the budget speech brings up something, but much more sort of toil,
right.
Much more of the hard work goes into putting together that.
Right.
I don't think you would have ever seen. There are actually 14 books which are part of the budget. Most people concern only with the budget speech or maybe budget at a glance, but not much. And that's also not the full budget. Then for every department, there is still much bigger volumes for each one of them, what we call demand for grants. So putting together all of these things is what is the excitement about the budget or the responsibility about it.
Right. So let me talk about from a shift gears from talking about the nation to actually talking a little bit more about the global economics of it. So you have also served as executive director at the World Bank. And over the last couple of decades, India has made this transition from being a junior partner in that forum or from a global perspective to being a partner of significance. Let me not call India a senior partner yet, but definitely a partner of significance. How have you seen that transition and what does it mean for us?
Kapil, it's actually much more nuanced and interesting. If I tell you that in 1945, when the IMF and the World Bank were created, they have a system of allowing the 6 largest members to nominate an executive director.
Sure.
And then the rest of the board seats, whichever number is, then all countries are sort of joined into constituencies, divided into constituencies, and then those constituencies elect as many of the board members as required. In 45, India was one of the 6 largest. Not many people would believe that India was poor, was with the British. At that time, it was not even an independent. But at that time, this was it was the 6th largest economy of the world, so to say, at that time also. Over the years, however, is what you said happened. We kept on sliding. We kept on sliding. And that brought us to become much smaller. We lost that nomination category. We became part of a constituency, which we still today are. So, for example, in both these institutions, so we are, our constituency, which elect one executive director, comprises India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Bhutan. Right. That heft or the economic situation was reflected in the way how we interacted with those institutions as well. Another thing I think which might not have come to your notice, in 50s, India was so poor, relatively speaking, that the World Bank had to come up with a new agency called International Development Agency to serve only the poorest of the poor in the world. Right? And at one point of time, from IDA, roughly about 40% of IDA assistance used to come to India.
Sure.
And that was given literally free of cost because it carried no interest. It was for a very long period, 35 to 40 to 50 years time. So the world designed such a sort of measure like we in India do in our budget for the poor. The global system was designing institutions
to do the same for
to serve the global poor like India.
Mhm.
And in that space, when we were basically recipients of the largesse or developmental assistance from them, our negotiating ability was relatively
Mhm.
smaller, weaker. And in IBRD, the main World Bank, so to say, when we were negotiating, we were getting funds from there as well. Then we were more in a, what the expression you said, junior position,
Mhm.
or a relatively weaker position
Mhm.
uh, in terms of negotiations. Similar thing was happened. We used to face the balance of payments crisis many times.
Mhm.
We had to go to IMF literally with a begging
Yep.
bowl, so to say. What Pakistan and others do today, we used to do it in
Yep.
70s and 80s,
Mhm.
and take the IMF loan. So that position was definitely weaker.
Mhm.
But by the time I came into the system, because the hard work which Indians had done earlier,
Mhm.
or the people of India had done in a way, we had started becoming stronger.
Sure.
One measure which can sort of testify this is that around 2006 or 7, World Bank classifies the countries into three groups.
Mhm.
One is the low income countries, which are the poorest of
Mhm.
the poor, so to say.
Mhm.
Then there is a middle income countries, and then there is a high income countries.
Right.
So we switched from the low income to the middle
Middle
income.
income.
That was quite an advancement
Mhm.
in my judgment. So I had joined the system around that time. We were
Mhm.
growing.
Right.
We were also becoming relatively economically powerful. So I remember I described this episode in my book,
Mhm.
that when I was negotiating a project with the World Bank, it was 2003. It was for an Allahabad bypass
Mhm.
road, um, and the World Bank guys on the other side were trying to impose conditions on us,
Mhm.
which were not fair,
Sure.
which were even beyond what their system required.
Sure.
Was treating us as that India can be forced to accept something. And we said, no, we will
Mhm.
not even take the loan, we will not negotiate in
Right.
case you insist on this.
Mhm.
And they backtracked after those hard stance. So we had come of age in a way,
Right.
becoming from the junior to an equal partner kind of thing.
Mhm.
And today, around that time also, we made another transition. In the IMF,
Mhm.
instead of taking the loan from the IMF, we started lending
Right.
through IMF to other countries. That
Mhm.
also happened in 2004-5.
Mhm.
Right. So this is the way the transition had taken place.
Right.
Today we are much more comfortable
Much larger in
situation. Our
size and
foreign
right.
reserves, you see, and we don't take any loans from, I think, 1991. After that, we have not
Mhm.
taken any IMF loan. We, as I said, we are
Mhm.
giving rather than taking. So we are today in much a stronger position. But let's also not sort of make a wrong assumption that we are the most powerful.
Mhm.
We are still not.
Sure.
We are still at $3.5 trillion to $4 trillion economy. Our per capita income is only about $2,600 or so, whereas we are still in the lower middle income space.
Mhm.
Whereas about 90 countries are in high income
Sure.
space. So let us keep our uh, feet well grounded,
Mhm.
uh, and further improve our positions in times to come.
Sure. So, from a global financial institutions perspective, what do they want the most from India? Is it growth? Is it compliance? Or is it control?
See, the global institutions have been created by all of us.
Mhm.
The impression that uh, these institutions are enemies or something different out to control
Mhm.
is not fully correct. I mean,
Sure.
there is definitely a major partner, major country in those institutions. For example, World Bank, IMF
Mhm.
were established when America was in the lead, and America still has a lot of say
Out of control,
in
right?
these institutions.
Mhm.
So I think what you mean is when these institutions want something, you perhaps mean what America wants through these institutions, right?
Sure.
Right. So if we take that interpretation, these institutions which are American controlled were much more fair. Of course, there is always an element of American preference going into it,
Mhm.
but they were much more democratic, much more
Right.
fair. So, what did they want from us? Uh, I think I would treat them to a great extent as
Sure.
partners in progress. They were funding, we were working with them, we were also contributing many lessons, we also participating in the board which
Sure.
makes the
Sure.
decisions. So it was more of a partnership kind of relationship rather than, of course, there is always this case that the developed countries uh, have some agenda. For
Mhm.
example, until couple of years back, until the time Trump came into the scene,
Mhm.
they had become very conscious about the environment,
Mhm.
climate change, and all,
Mhm.
and they would like us to, or everybody else to do
To
what the
contribute
climate
and yeah.
agenda. So no coal projects for that matter, no major
Mhm.
hydros, things like that. So those things came up. And if it becomes the policy of the World Bank, then you don't
Right.
you don't get finance for that. But so those aberrations come to some extent, but that's part of a very larger story. I don't
Mhm.
think we should miss the wood for the tree, so to say.
Sure. Sure. So you took a voluntary retirement in 2019.
Right.
Uh, was it so? What drove that? I mean, was it really exhaustion? Was it disillusionment with the system, or was it simply liberation?
Oh, see, I've described in very great detail that event, and I have at one place called it the last straw on the camel's back,
Hmm.
which made me take
Hmm.
this decision that my time in the service is up. I should look for better alternatives outside.
Hmm.
But to respond to your question, was it liberation or was it exhaustion?
Hmm.
And one more expression you used,
Disillusionment.
or disillusion. So I would say none of these three. I had fantastic career in the IAS, so there was no element of disillusionment. I was perhaps at the peak of my capacity, so there was no exhaustion. I was quite motivated to do work, so it was not a question. Uh, and I was not looking to escape, so it was not liberation in that
Sure.
sense. I would describe it more like a career change,
Sure.
if I may put it. So I decided that the career in the IAS is done. 36 years is good enough,
Hmm.
long enough to do the service. Now, I would like to expand to the
Sure.
wider society. Um, it also, Kapil, in a way, uh, sort of tallies with my broader thinking
Sure.
that there is an age, the age of karma, if you can call it,
Hmm.
where you are doing executive function, you participating into executive programs, the doing kind of thing. You're more a doer, right? But a stage comes in everybody's life, to my mind, where they should shift from doing to contemplating,
Right.
to and that is the time when you invest more in acquiring knowledge
Hmm.
and also, if possible, create knowledge.
Sure.
So that which we traditionally describe as the stage of Vanprastha, so to say, is the stage where you become an investor in knowledge and create knowledge. So
Sure.
I think that was the pivot, that was the change. So it was change from the career of a doer to a career of a knowledge creator. So
So how does a career in bureaucracy change the human being inside?
see, you live it. Let us say, if in the context of IAS, when you join, you're very young, 23, 24, though these days there are 28, 29 year age also, but those times was very, very young when you join, right? You have come out the universities or and at that stage, obviously you're looking forward to the next stage in your life, from the learning or school or college to doer kind of thing, and you also get into making a family, grasp, that kind of thing. So it changes as you change for many reasons. You grow into youth, elder, then that way. As I was trying to say earlier, in terms of professional change, in terms of uh, dreams, in the sense that when you join, you have a certain kind of ideas, and by the time you exit, have those things changed and all. I think I was fortunate in a way that I did not have to change my basic mindset at any stage. It remained the same throughout. Of course, the responsibility, the challenges, particular postings kept on changing. Your span of area of work kept on expanding. When I joined, the postings began with a subdivisional officer, which is a part of a district. You then grow to a district level, you grow to the state level, then you come and work at the all India level. Then I was also lucky in a way to work at the global level. So all these changes become part of you, your personality, your growth, so to say. And if you keep on growing yourself for the larger and larger responsibilities, you keep on preparing yourself for that.
Sure.
I think you grow with the growth in your professional path.
So you talked about the basic essence of IMF or the global bodies, where they would look at them as kind of trying to create a equality system where the larger entities pull in money and it's used for the benefit of the smaller ones. I guess that's also something that you talked about as the model that is followed at a national level, where there are some states that may generate a larger portion of economic prosperity or wealth, so to speak, and that's used at other places. That in some ways also, if you keep drilling down, that becomes what we call as the subsidy system at the lowest level. And there is always two schools of thoughts on that. One is the larger entities who keep complaining my funds are being used here, and the second is, if you don't do that, then people at the ground level will struggle. But within that, there is also this question of where does subsidy end and prosperity begin. So in a lot of ways, one of the questions that I keep on asking is, if you would come up with the Manrega scheme, and you would give free money, or come up with other subsidies that are given, and you would keep giving free money to people, what would be the incentive? How do you create economic prosperity? So I would love to hear your views on that. In fact, in my book, just to kind of like just to exaggerate that point, in fact, I had written a chapter, and the title of the chapter was Nationalize Farming, where I was talking about, why don't you create a system where you take, a bunch of smaller farmers. One, you give them rent for the land that they own. but you put them, employ them as labor, or as as kind of the people that do the work on that farm, and you buy larger machines, you create some kind of a economic structure around it that kind of helps create that prosperity, versus every year going in and saying, hey, here is the subsidy, and here is the funds that are given to you. So there has to be a balance, right? I don't have that balance, so I would love to hear your views on that.
I think you've raised very interesting question. There is a lot of debate in the country about freebies uh, versus
Hmm.
development, reveries versus development,
Right.
that kind of debate,
Hmm.
and also the angle you brought in by saying that the rich states or the productive states think that they're being ripped off by transferring their resources to poor states. Tamil Nadu, Karnataka might complain,
Hmm.
Maharashtra might complain that our resources are going to Bihar or UP or something of that sort. So this I'll address your second question about agriculture model or a different model of development later.
Hmm.
But let me first address this question. See, drawing from the analogy of earlier discussion, if we treat the entire India as a family, the government has to take care of the relatively poorer part of it. I see there is a very sound logic, both economic as well as familial, so to say,
Sure.
that you take care of those who cannot take care of themselves.
Sure.
Right. If there is a disabled member in the family who can't earn for whatever reasons, you deal with mental illness,
Sure.
but they may be physical, they may be mental, or they may be any reason. And they're a very large number, by the way,
Right.
in the country who are not in a position to take care of themselves.
Sure.
Right. You need to take care of them.
Hmm.
Right. Then there are large number of people, because the way the economic system works, right, they can't earn enough
Sure.
for providing a reasonable minimum acceptable quality of life for their children,
Hmm.
giving them education or something other that. Here also is the state has a role. Why I would say that if you ever believe that uh, an uneducated or an unhealthy person, right,
Hmm.
is he a problem for himself only, or is he or she a problem for the society as well? We call it the concept of externalities,
Right.
right? That there are certain actions or certain situations where the wider society also suffers along with the person concerned.
Hmm.
So, if let us say disease spread, somebody X or Y may also get affected, but if he may also spread it to others,
Sure.
right? And therefore, there is a logic, rationale in also taking care of them,
Hmm.
right? So freebies or if those kind of programs or assistance which the government is providing
Hmm.
is to take care of the real poor who are not in a position to take themselves, I wouldn't call them freebies.
Sure.
I wouldn't call them subsidies,
Hmm.
or I wouldn't call them undesirable reveries or
Hmm.
something. That need to be done.
Hmm.
Similarly, for assisting those what we call merit goods, so to say, in having good health, good education,
Hmm.
good roads, good access,
Hmm.
um, reasonable housing for that matter,
Hmm.
right? For these kind of programs also, for the poorer section of the
Hmm.
society, if the government does, that's also not undesirable.
Sure.
But what is undesirable is that there is a rich guy, he doesn't need any subsidy or support, but you are still giving him. For example, let us take our program. This we provide food grains free of cost to 80 crore Indians,
Mhm.
right? Uh, it includes almost better off classes
Right.
in urban as well as the rural
Right.
areas.
I've seen
Half
people
the
who would want to not even get paid salary because they say if I take a certain portion of my salary in a certain way, then I won't be below poverty line. I may lose some of the subsidies and goodies that I get.
No, I'm the poverty line. That is a misuse that
Mhm.
somebody has sort of deceived the system to be in the.
Mhm.
But I'm saying that there are really good people
Mhm.
who don't need assistance,
Right.
right? So if you are earning, let us say, 50,000 rupees a month,
Mhm.
and you still take ration from the government,
Right.
or government provides ration to you,
Mhm.
right? That is not
That's the
a
misuse,
desirable
right?
thing. That's really a freebie.
Mhm.
So we need to be very conscious about what the program we are running. If the program is for the those who are incapable of taking care of themselves, or for the really poor, or where there are externalities, then those programs should not be called freebies or subsidies. Those should be taken up. There is very argument for that. But those which serve the undeserved, that is where you need to sort of make a better program or close that.
Mhm.
That is how we should take it. There is one more angle of this debate which goes around, is cash versus kind.
Right.
That cash subsidy or cash handout is bad, and it should only be given in kind. For example, just debate this in your mind, that is it better to provide free education in a government school, or provide a voucher allowing the guy to study wherever they want? Which is better, right? Or for that matter, take this, even the example which we were discussing, give free food grain, wheat or rice, to anyone, including those families who don't eat wheat or rice, they eat something else, coarse grain or makki or that kind of thing, or give them equivalent amount in cash so that they can buy whatever they want.
Right.
There may be debate.
Mhm.
Then somebody may misuse some, but that misuse argument may apply to even this. That you have given him wheat, he sells off outside.
Which is actually, I know of farmers that do not eat the crops that they grow. They
Exactly.
take the ration because they say, I get it at 2 rupees, I sell it at 10.
That's it. So misuse can happen either way,
Right.
in cash or in kind.
Mhm.
So there is a large development in the country of the cash handouts program. This
The
Ladki
DBTs.
Behan and the Ladli Behan kind of thing. We were in a way the pioneer. The Bhama Shah program in 2008, which we started in Rajasthan, was the first
Sure.
program in the country of giving cash handout to the
Mhm.
women. But we thought there is a very good logic for
Mhm.
doing it.
Mhm.
Convert this, the kind, into cash, and give it into the hand of the women, head of the family. They are more likely to spend on the family than otherwise.
Right.
So I would sort of summarize this to say that we shouldn't classify or demean a large section of justified support for the poor and the deserving by calling that revenues or freebies or something, or subsidies. We should be discerning enough to stop those where it is going to undeserving kind of people. And cash is not necessarily a bad way of delivering the
Mhm.
benefit to the people. Now, to address your question about the farming, by the way, model you described was tried very extensively in the world in the communist countries.
Yep.
Right, communist countries took they with only one variation. They took away the
It
land
took away the, yeah.
rather than paying rent to
Yeah.
them. You said pay them
Pay them
rent,
some
right?
rent.
But with that, that's a minor tweak. If you convert this system, I think you're also promoting the large corporate farming, large, whether the government or the private corporate farming, which is more likely to be efficient than what the smallholder, but smallholder agriculture can also be very productive. But the problem which came up, rightly so, if there is disalignment of incentives between what you are producing and whether you get the price of the produce as your reward or some wages, right, that can create, and it created in both Russia as well as China,
In
the
China.
problem
Yep.
of incentives very, very much.
Yep.
People were paid only that much, that which will keep their body and soul together. They had no interest in the produce of the field which they were working
Mhm.
on. As a result, they became totally disinterested, and the agriculture, in fact, became more unproductive.
Right, but that's where I keep talking about. But that's a problem that I, as an entrepreneur, solve every day in my office.
Correct. So
How do I
you
ensure there is enough incentive to the people that work for me, who are not necessarily business owners, but they are aligned? They have their so interests need to be matched. They need to
correct.
be aligned.
So that is where your argument is right. Is it's about the corporate farming,
Mhm.
which we have disallowed in the country. We should
Mhm.
allow to some extent. But a government controlled cooperative, with the incentive getting misaligned completely. By the way, in Rajasthan there is a place called Suratgarh. A very large farm was established, right, with Bulgarian and Russian
Mhm.
assistance, and a lot of big machinery was also brought in there. You should visit someday if you like, if you have interest, want to see what happened to the Suratgarh farm, which was a very large farm. I think it was more than 400 hectare kind of
Okay.
farm, right? And all kind of big machinery of that time had been brought in. But very few years later, those machines became unserviceable. It cost hell of a lot. The labor which was brought in to do the work there was only interested in the wages. They were not, and the officers or the managers who were managing had no entrepreneurial sense. So as a result,
That's exactly where I was coming from. The model can be explored,
correct,
and instead of, so I very firmly believe, instead of giving out a subsidy to someone for just being used without that subsidy somehow being aligned, so the same alignment of
correct,
interests,
correct.
since that doesn't get aligned, we're not able to create that economic prosperity of sorts.
I would only sort of close this argument on this issue by saying that we should permit corporate farming.
Sure.
Right. And that is where, if those interested corporates can do a better agriculture by aligning the incentives better, they should also be able to show. We shouldn't be fearful that if we allow corporate farming in the country, then what will happen to smallholders? They would all become subsumed in the system and their interest. It's not the case. I agree entirely with you. It may actually be better for them.
Yep. In fact, this discussion can further be taken down into, the entire farmer laws, and
Correct,
what
correct.
happened. But that would need a full episode by
Exactly.
itself.
I
Let's.
have dealt with this issue
Mhm.
extensively in my book, The $10 trillion Dream, and I describe that what are the major changes which are required for
Mhm.
India at this moment to transform agriculture
Mhm.
into businesses.
Absolutely. I think agriculture can be a hugely profitable business if you if you
Exactly.
if you really look at numbers. Uh, you know, anything above a 1 acre farm uh, can be converted into a profitable
So you
business.
read that, you can have a discussion, because that's a fascinating, that's a much bigger,
Mhm.
much more deep-seated reforms which are required.
Absolutely. In fact, let me take this to now the other side. One of the firm beliefs that I have is that specifically today we do not live in one India. We live in three Indias. There is one that I call as a developed India. There is nearly 100 million people in India that live in a developed world. The problem, and which, by the way, is as much of a population as almost most developed countries would have. So, and I think there is a lot of disenchantment, so to speak, that happens at, amongst this 100 million population, that they are not able to live in a developed world. They still continue to face the frailties of the underdeveloped, or the poor world, even so to speak. um, in a lot of ways, this also leads to people migrating, to not even migrating as in living, but at least moving their economic interests to, like, the Dubais of the
Correct.
world, the Singapores of the world, the Irelands of the world. I'm not even talking about migrating to the US and the Canada and the and Australia and UK, but really just moving their economic interest. Then there is this second India, which is the middle class, which is probably another 600, 700, 800 million people. uh, that class has dispensable income now, they have aspirational value, and they want to keep moving up the food chain. And then I think there is this probably 2 300 million people that are below poverty line. Now, you can't really deal with India with one economic policy for all three.
See, that is where the genius of the policymaker is needed,
Mhm.
because all the three Indias which you describe are a fact of life.
Mhm.
You can't wish away. You can't also have the policy for only one
Right.
of these three Indias, as you describe. So that challenge is what is the policymaker's
Mhm.
challenge is, right? But and we may also remember, while the top class is actually most vocal about their interest,
Mhm.
the bottom class is in no position to express
And they are the
themselves.
most needy in a lot of
Correct.
ways. Exactly.
And the, if I may say so, the top or developed or the rich class, so to say, I think wrongly believes that they are rich only because they are so brilliant or otherwise.
Yeah, I agree.
They are rich because they have drawn incomes
Yep.
from the middle class and the poor classes. Right. We
And
can,
in a lot of ways, that rich in India is through inheritance, which really
that's
you
another,
have no contribution into
correct. So
anything
the
that you are doing.
inheritance plus, if you are able to use a labor here for 400 or 300 rupees a day, right, and do your industrial work, your factory work, your personal work, homework, whereas this is not in a developed country, they pay for even 1 hour over, right? Who has subsidized whom?
Yep.
Right. So I think the rich should not believe that it is their hard work, their enterprise alone which has made them rich.
Absolutely.
Right.
In fact, I was having this very interesting with a very close college friend, and it wasn't supposed to be a casteist or a regional discussion. But the way the discussion went was, I was on Dwarka Expressway with him. Lot of good progress, a lot of changes that have happened. Let me not say progress
Correct.
or good progress. A lot of changes that have happened there. And he's a Jat from Haryana, and he said, "You guys all came here, bought this land from us, moved in here, and you have spoiled this place." And I looked at him and said, "The money that we gave you for that is the money which enabled you to come there and spoil it for us."
Yeah, you can always discuss and find the scapegoats, whichever way, and
Exactly.
whichever side of the bread you are buttering.
Yep.
So that's
Yep.
fine.
In fact, one of the things that I always find very fascinating, specifically, I've done a lot of work in corporates. I've done a lot of entrepreneurship. Done my own startups, multiple ones, and I have done a lot of work in government and politics. From a digital, from a promotion, from kind of looking at it very closely. One of the things that I find very fascinating is the government doesn't have much of a concept of accountability of the supervisor. Um,
Okay.
and I and that in a lot of ways I see as the distinction between how a corporate or an entity aligned with growth, and how government works.
We were discussing in the initial part of the conversation about the system, right?
Mhm.
You may have a very legitimate sort of view about the supervisory negligence or lack of strength at that point, but that's what the system we have.
Mhm.
In their wisdom, or in the wisdom of the system maker so far, a certain kind of, in their judgment, they had actually many layers of supervisory, major layer of accountability, major level of paper based kind of accountability fixation kind of thing. uh, I agree entirely that this requires a change, this requires a different way of doing it.
Mhm.
um, Also exposing in terms of the public, should we have so much confidentiality, should we be subject to more of public scrutiny and all. There is a lot of change which is required to make it to the present. uh, but it may not be, in my judgment, correct to say that there is only one factor which explains
Sure.
the inefficiency.
Sure. So let's talk about your book, No Minister. Um, it's almost like an expose, right? So why did you choose to write it now?
I don't think this is an expose in the sense. Expose is you investigate something, and then after the investigation, you come up
Mhm.
with something which was not known earlier, right? I've described the life which I lived in the IAS. So it may be for many people a very new kind of information. For them, it might appear to be something of a discovery of this, but this is very normal. This is the way the system
This is the way the
functions,
system
right?
functions. Okay.
So that I have truthfully, what is new about it is that perhaps no one has written about this in this way, that I have described the real situations, real cases, with the real people, and the way they interfaced, interacted, decided, not decided, their interest. And so this is like my attempt was to create uh, as if you are in the room,
As if you are living the system.
you are part of that particular
Mhm.
episode.
Mhm.
You feel that you are immersed into it, you are in, so that you get that kind of feeling. And
Mhm.
what does it mean,
Sure.
right? So why did I write it? My idea was very simple. I had two basic motivations. Number one, I have always felt that in India we don't have this kind of culture of documenting things,
Sure.
right? We work more by memories or by exchanging things, etc., and carrying with us. We don't document for the posterity, for the next generation, and that leaves people or your successors and others, the new generation which is coming to, uh, completely oblivious of what
The
the
reality is
situation
at that
was
time.
at that particular time.
Mhm.
So I thought I must document,
Mhm.
and document in a way
Mhm.
which is very realistic. The second thing which I found persuasive, which we discussed partly earlier, that I had this very strong belief in my lifetime that the job of the IS officer is to serve the public interest,
Sure.
and not the private interest of the ministers or the politician.
Mhm.
So I wanted to document whether I served the public interest well or not
Sure.
by describing the real situations. And to be realistic again, uh, I brought out the good, bad consequences to me as well, and why did I still have a very successful career.
Sure.
So I think those are the motivations why I wrote. I was not interested to expose anything
Sure.
or
Sure.
anybody.
Sure. Um, so I'm sure you get this question very frequently. So you wrote the $10 trillion dream, and then you wrote the $10 trillion dream, Dented. Where are you now? Is the dream alive? delayed, dented, dead?
So, Kapil, in 2019-20 budget, when this $10 trillion dream was first described in an official document, that is
Mhm.
the budget of that year, which Piyush Goyal presented, there is this one statement that by middle of 2030s, we would like India to become a $10 trillion economy or GDP of that. The India at that time should grow to this. We were at about 2.7 trillion at that time. So the journey or whatever we needed to do from 2.7 to 10 trillion over a 15-year period is what are the dream, so to say,
Sure.
right? Or vision, whichever way you want to describe. Now, one period of 5 year has gone. That is where my assessment was that dream is little dented.
Sure.
Right. That's why I wrote that book with the title "The Dream Dented." I have decided to do this kind of fact-based assessment every 5 years.
Sure.
So my next assessment is due in 29.
Okay.
We are in the second year of that, from 24 to 29. We are in 25. It's not going great, but it's not doing
terrible either.
Very badly either.
Right.
In the first term, one of the bad decisions which actually dented this was the decision taken when the COVID struck and the country was literally closed by a lockdown where everything was stopped.
Right.
I think that was a bad decision that put our
It put the economy
back
many years.
Many years. In that year, we had a negative growth of 6%. Right. So that kind of bad decision is not being made at this moment. But there is a lot of tax giveaways, there is a lot of difficulties on the fiscal side, which I see coming. I wouldn't like to prejudge where we are in 2029, but at this moment it appears that we are moving, but not as strongly as we wanted to be.
Sure.
Let us wait for 29.
Sure. One economic policy decision, if you were in office today, that you think you would want to reverse or look at differently?
By the way, I hope we took every decision which was meant for what we thought was good. But if I were to respond, because generally it's very difficult to single out something or the other. But one decision which I wasn't very major party to it, when the government started this PM Kisan Yojana of giving 6,000 rupees to every farmer every year, without sort of reforming the agricultural system. So this was a top up. So I wouldn't have taken that decision then in this manner. So if I have to select some, then I would select that as one decision, which I wish was not done.
Sure. So having lived through, I'm sure in your career you would have seen a whole bunch of corruption, politics, power struggles. Do you think we are doing better now in terms of being able to rise above that and grow the country?
See, it's more complex in my judgment. India, corruption to some extent is cultural.
Yep.
Right. It's part of us. But we also have very, very uplifting story of people completely above the this kind of temptation. So, and I don't think we have any measure. You are measuring the mental stress, but I wish you can also design some way the corruption stress of the society.
I actually have a couple of very interesting pointers on that.
But I don't have that. So it's difficult to say that are we regressing? There is that Transparency International which does some report which is not being generated for a couple of years because of reasons, right? I would like to leave that question uh, unanswered, in the sense that it's difficult to say whether we are digressing or we are making better. I think we are what we are.
Sure. So let me give my 3 key pointers on this. First of all, I think there is a positive corruption and there is a negative corruption.
No, that's a theory of corruption.
Right.
We can discuss that. That's a different matter.
Right.
But the extent of corruption is very difficult.
Right. So second, where I talk about the extent of corruption, I think there is a corruption that troubles my life as a citizen on a everyday, every hour basis. And then there is a corruption that sits at the top level. The corruption at the top level, I mean, you may call it may be layered in whatever structure, but that corruption at the top level is there in every part of the world, and it will always be there because people in power, they need to feed their stomachs too, right?
So which ones you justify? Why should we justify the top or the bottom?
No, I'm saying when I talked about this 100 million developed population, and in fact I was one of my very dear friends got into not even a scuffle, but a guy in his colony in a drunk state, by the way, a government employee, okay, a section officer in a government ministry, let me not name the ministry at this time, but this guy in a drunk state troubled him while he was entering into his house, and he is talking to me about, I want to live in a developed world, I have money, so he's what I would call as somebody who's part of the 100 million, and he's saying, in this country my challenge is I just cannot have a normal life. And that is something, and I travel, reasonably extensively. That is something that I keep struggling with. Every time I would go to the US, every time I would travel to Canada, every time I would go to, even the Dubais and the Singapores of the world, that is one thing that will keep troubling me. That in India, even if I am on the right side of the law, and if I want to live on the right side of the law, in a comfortable manner for myself, let me not talk about what economic prosperity or not, I can't do that.
See, I would only suggest that we don't look at such a serious issue only from the personal point of view.
Fair.
Because if somebody at the bottom of the pyramid is affected by the fact that Patwari asked him 100 rupees for giving a copy of his land record, I think he is also as adversely affected.
That's the struggle that I'm talking. That's the corruption that I'm talking about, that needs to be removed.
If at the top you tweak policy to benefit someone, some industry, at the cost of other industry, right? The effect is same. Whoever is on the wrong side of the corruption is sufferer. Whoever is on the right side of the corruption is actually beneficial to the system, whether it's Patwari or the minister.
In fact, I keep looking at this, and since I come from a technology background myself, I keep looking at how technology can transform a lot of that. And by the way, it's not that we are not doing anything. Let me, not be nihilist in that way. We are doing tremendous amount of stuff in having technology transform a lot of that.
Of course, deregulation, decentralization, lots of things being done away with. I give this example usually, the capital controller issue, deciding the premiums of the share issue, etc., leading to corruption. Now, if that is abolished, you don't need to do it. A lot of improvement takes place, but the new areas emerge.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is where I think this is more of a, as I said, more of a cultural issue.
Right. And we all, I would always say, we all, every individual, every citizen, every person living in the country is a part responsible for that.
Absolutely. That I agree.
We love to participate. We teach our kids that corruption in the smallest and the most basic things that we do. Interestingly, many years back when I moved back from US to India, I was one day in car with my sister. She had twin sons, and she said, "We have stopped throwing stuff on the road now because we want to teach our kids it's a bad habit." And I looked at her and I was like, "Wow,
That's another
that's
aspect which
progress."
we change. Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay, let's get on.
right. So I guess now what I would like to do is move into the next segment
Okay.
of this program, which we call as rapid fire.
Okay.
This is not, coffee with Karan, so I
Mm.
don't have juicy rapid fire, but I certainly have a series of questions,
Okay.
and whatever is the first thought that comes into your head, if you can share that.
All right.
Okay.
I'll try. I may
Sure.
not answer all if I find something
Yeah,
unanswered.
absolutely. One word to describe India's bureaucracy.
We exist.
Most overrated economic policy in India's history.
The socialistic pattern of society, public sector,
One,
dominance.
one political leader who really understood economics.
I think amongst the prime minister, I would rate Narasimha Rao.
And one who just did not.
Oh, that's tough. I think Indira Gandhi didn't understand economics much.
I would have either named her or I would have said VP Singh, but but yeah, one of the two. A book every young IAS officer must read, apart from yours.
I think Constitution of India.
The Constitution of India. More powerful in India, the finance secretary or the finance minister? So this is the
Of course, the finance minister.
finance minister. Okay. One global institution India can live without, IMF or World Bank?
I think we should live with both of them.
One that India should live without.
I don't think we should
Okay.
live without anyone.
If you had to choose 10% GDP growth or zero corruption?
If the choice is between the two, 10% growth.
I would choose zero corruption. But
No, I wouldn't like to die poor without corruption.
fair enough. One budget decision you regret?
I think I said something PM Kisan, maybe.
Something that would sum up your new book, No Minister.
Public interest is supreme.
Private sector or public sector, who really runs India?
Private sector majorly.
I currently look at India as a very crony capitalist country, but then that's my nihilist point of view. Coffee with a politician or negotiation with the World Bank, which is more stressful?
None of them. No stress.
Okay. Dream headline you wish to read about India's economy is 2030.
Every average Indian has $5,000 per capita income.
One economic myth about India you would like to kill forever?
We would ever remain a poor country.
Finally, do you look at yourself as an optimist, as a realist, or as a cynic about India's future?
Realist.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
With that, I guess we come to the end of this. Some very interesting punches, some amazing insights into government functioning, into India's economy, into how policy making and everything works. I think it's been a fabulous session. Thank you so much, sir, for being on the program.
Thank you to you to draw so much and having such nice, good questions. Wonderful.
And I hope you all have fun listening to this, and it's insightful, entertaining, as well as generate some value for you. Thank you so much.